Okay, welcome to Caleb's Basketball Pod. Before we jump into, as promised, the awards that I told you I would go over, we're going to break down something that was surprising that happened today, and it was Taylor Jenkins has been relieved of his duties as the head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies. That happened earlier today. Now, this is strange with about 10 games left in the regular season and you're heading to the playoffs. Like, we're all pretty sure that Memphis is heading to the playoffs. They have lost 4 of their last 5, but Ja Morant has not played recently as well, and they're just kind of struggling to get points consistently, get stops. But they're still on the path of a 5th seed right now. But most definitely on the path to be in the playoffs. So this just comes a little surprising. I see you relieving your coach if you're not going to the playoffs at this point, and you know you're not going. But you have this guy's system that you've worked on all season, and then you get till 10 games to the playoffs, and now you release this guy? This is weird. I'm very interested to see if there's more to this. See if something happened, maybe an argument with management or player or players or something like that. But I'm interested to see as this story develops and we'll keep up with it. But I just think this is strange. Now, I will say this on the matter. I've talked about Memphis as being that team that underperforms every single year in the playoffs. You have a really good roster. You get a top 3 or 4 seed in the Western Conference, and then you get bounced in the 4th round. Now, that is a bit of an issue, but me personally, I thought they would have addressed that in the offseason. Not waited till you are almost to the playoffs as a top 5 seed yet again, and now you address this, that you may think it's an issue, but I don't necessarily think this is an issue as much as this is like player health. We've had Jaren Jackson miss a lot of time with injuries. He's played 66 of the 70-some games so far. We've had Ja Morant miss a lot of time in a lot of games, especially recently. He hasn't played in these last 5 where they're 1-4. But it's not only health, but it's their roster's not really built to succeed in the playoffs. And I think it's a decent roster. And I've been saying this, I still don't feel you have your go-to guy. Ja Morant is really, really good, and he is really awesome to watch if you want to see these really cold dunks and these plays and these athletic, out-this-world plays, but he is not that guy. As much as I like him, as much as I love watching him play, he is not consistently that superstar player in the NBA. And maybe he looked like it before he was suspended with the gun incident, and then he came back and got injured, and since then he has just not consistently been that guy. Not saying it's not them, not saying we aren't seeing him bits and pieces, but he has not been the Ja Morant, all-star Ja Morant since returning. Some games he'll give you 20, some games he'll give you 12. That's not the guy. He's not the guy of the team. You need that go-to player, that in the clutch, I gave it to this man, and he is going to do everything and finish this game for me. I haven't seen that. So, I think you're that player away from being a real contender. Right now, I just think you're a pretender. And I don't think changing the coach changes that. I think you have to change and upgrade the roster a little bit in the offseason. But it's interesting because we saw they tried to get Kevin Durant, they tried to get Jimmy Butler. Both players were not big on going Memphis, so it does make you wonder what's going on in Memphis. But we'll talk about this story more as it develops. Now let's get to our awards. I'm going to give you 3 candidates for each award, and then I'm going to pick who I would give the award to. Let's start with 6th Man of the Year. For this, our 3 candidates are Ty Jerome of the Cleveland Cavaliers, DeAndre Hunter, Hawks, and now Cavaliers, and then Peyton Pritchard of the Boston Celtics. I think they all have great cases for the Sixth Man of the Year award. For this, well, let's break down a little bit of the case. DeAndre Hunter coming in off the bench in Atlanta and Cleveland, shooting near 40% from three-point line. When he was in Atlanta, he was averaging 18. His averages in Cleveland are a little bit lower, but he's doing more. He's playing at the end of the games. He's making a big difference. Ty Jerome leads players off the bench in player effectiveness rating. He's close to the 50, 40, 90, and he's coming off the bench. His minutes are not super high, which is very impressive. He's giving you about 12 and maybe barely 20 minutes. It's not bad at all. And I just love how he makes a difference as soon as he steps on the floor. Peyton Pritchard, there's not much more to say, but the guy has been consistently a bucket. We've seen him come off the bench and give 40 pieces off the bench, hitting like 9 3-pointers in a game. That's insane. That's crazy. And he's done his thing all season. He did his thing all of last season and could have very well, he was a contender to win the Sixth Man of the Year last year too. So I don't think this should be any surprise. My pick for Sixth Man of the Year would be Peyton Pritchard. He, like I said, just for consistency, for giving you these points, making a huge difference, especially offensively. If you're without Brown or you're without Tatum, he comes in off the bench and he makes it look like you have them from his scoring. And that has just been an amazing thing to watch. And to be honest, he's been one of the sixth men I've seen in recent years, just in general. Next up, we're going to go Most Improved Player of the Year. I think this award is weird, as in we don't necessarily give this to the player that's really improved. We more so give this to a player that was good, but now he's an all-star. And that's kind of how this award's been done. And at that point, I think you would have, usually, like I said, 3 candidates, but I think you would have 4 that could hit this requirement, so to speak. I think you have Darius Garland. We all know he had a really bad season last year, breaking his jaw. Just sometimes looking like he just wasn't there mentally last year, and he regained, and he's an all-star again. I'd say DG is most definitely up for that. Cade Cunningham. We look at the leaps and bounds that this man's jumped in from last season to this year. He went from one of the worst 2 teams in the league last year to being the guy, and he is the guy on the Detroit Pistons, who have completely torn their franchise around this season. And it's really great to see, and I give a ton of credit to Cade Cunningham. Last candidate before I reveal who I would pick as the winner, Jaren Jackson. I just spoke on the Grizzlies. He's took his game to another level. He was just the defensive guy. He went from the just defensive guy to he's developed his outside shot. He's shown he can score on anyone in the post. He's doing his thing, and he is leading the Grizzlies in scoring, and he became an all-star this season. But who I would give Most Improved Player to, who's just took leaps and bounds, and who I may pick for another award later on in these awards, I would give it to Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley has had a tremendous season. He went from the guy that you were like, you see the last couple of seasons and you're like, wow, we saw a lot of upside in his rookie season, to looking and not seeing as much in his next couple of seasons to this. When Evan Mobley scores this many, the Cleveland Cavaliers are winning. When he does this, the Cleveland Cavaliers are winning. When he's hitting these outside shots, which he is now doing consistently, the Cleveland Cavaliers are winning. When he's at the rim protecting the basket, helping the Cleveland Cavaliers win. And I keep hearing people say this, and I agree. He is the biggest catalyst to if Cleveland's going to come out the East, in my opinion, and most everyone's opinion. If he is the best player on the floor in the game, which he can be, there is a very good chance Cleveland could beat Boston. If he is not, it looks like it's going to go Boston's way. But it all depends. If Evan Mobley becomes a superstar we're slowly seeing him turn into, it could go either way. Next up, we have 3 more awards. Let's go Defensive Player of the Year. This award's different. Most of the time it goes to bigs. But for candidacy, we're going to give you 4 real quick. We're going to say Draymond Green. He is playing really good, playing good defensively. For some reason, the odds have shifted to him, and I don't necessarily get that because I don't think he's not my pick for Defensive Player of the Year, but he's up there. We're going to go Dyson Daniels, leading the league in steals at a historic rate. Unfortunately, I don't think he's any as much just because of the Hawks' record and the fact that Hawks' defense in general is not really up to par, so I don't think you give Defensive Player of the Year to a guard that's team is not great defensively. Now here's your 2 real candidates, Evan Mobley and Jaren Jackson Jr. I would pick one of these 2. At the moment, I'm leaning from record and what difference I think it makes, because you can see in the games Evan Mobley doesn't play, you can see Cleveland's defense struggles. Last night against San Antonio, you saw the Spurs get the ball into the paint over and over and over and over again, and Jared Allen didn't really make a real difference until maybe the last couple minutes of the game. If that's Evan Mobley in that paint, he's going to be making a difference all game. So in my opinion, as good as Jaren Jackson Jr. has been all year, like I said, keeping that defensive intensity and then adding offense, my Defensive Player of the Year would be Evan Mobley. Next up, let's jump to Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year, interesting candidates. Early on in the season, I would have said Jamal Mosley for the Orlando Magic. Well, the Magics fell off. They are not looking as good anymore. So I'm going to take him out of the running because there's a chance that if they lose 2 games, they don't even make the playoffs. Now I'm going to shift to my candidates, which would be J.B. Bickerstaff, Kenny Atkinson, and who are we going to throw in as a forward candidate? I mean, you could always say Oklahoma, Mark Daigneault. I think that's very obvious. But I'm going to go, for my forward candidate, I'm going to go J.J. Redick, because I think he's done an amazing job his first year with the Los Angeles Lakers. I think this award really comes down to Atkinson and J.B. Bickerstaff. And for my pick, I'm going to go Kenny Atkinson just because of the pace and the record and the stuff Cleveland's done this year. I would give it to Kenny Atkinson, but I'll say this. If Bickerstaff gets the Pistons to the 4th seed, because right now they're 5th or 6th, if he gets them home court advantage, I'll change it to J.B. Bickerstaff. As it stands right now, being the 5th or 6th seed for Detroit, you made the playoffs, you don't have home court advantage, you may get bounced in the 1st round, I'd go for number 1 seed. But if you turn one of the bottom 2 teams in the NBA into a home court advantage playoff team, I'm going Bickerstaff. Oh, and another candidate with Redick too out west, Ime Udoka. That man, I've talked about him a lot for Houston. He has done an amazing job bringing defensive intensity and everything to that Houston Rockets team. There's grit, there's hustle, there's passion you see when these guys are hooping, and they have a shot to be a top 2 seed in the Western Conference. They could be number 2 under Oklahoma. That is daggone impressive. If you are a Rockets fan, it's great. But I'm still going to go Bickerstaff or Atkinson. Next up, final award here that we're going to talk about. MVP award. 3 candidates for this is easy, although it's a 2-man race. So I'm going to say who I would put in 4th place. A man that does not get much attention at all from the NBA. He gets more negative attention than not. But I'm going Jason Tatum. He has had an amazing season this year. He has just been balling, and no one's even talking about it. He's not even given the credit he deserves for how consistently good he's been. He's playing that power forward spot, and he's getting double-doubles And he's not even the size of a standard power forward, and he is playing that power forward spot. He's getting double-doubles. He's giving you 30 pieces. He's been the Celtics' leading scorer. He's been the Celtics' leading assist man and rebounder at points in the season. He has done everything for that Boston Celtics team, and this man does not get enough credit. And the fact that Boston's still the overwhelming favorites to repeat, it's because Jason Tatum's the best player on your team. Top two candidates, Jokic and SGA, and that's not even surprising. I'm going to start off with who would be runner-up for me. And he's had an amazing run, but he's missed a lot of games as of late. Number two for me is Nikola Jokic. And we see the Nuggets are hovering around that forward. They could move up, they could move down. We're not sure where they're going to land. He's missed a few games as of late, but he's had an amazing year. Oddly enough, maybe the best year he's had in his career statistically. And the fact that he's coming in number two, it just shows you how great of a season the man who I would give the MVP award to, SGA, has had. He is leading the youngest team in the league, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are younger than some college teams currently in the March Madness tournament. Age average-wise, we're saying. Not, as we know, not full team. But that's crazy to think about. And the fact he is leading them, and he is leading the scoring by far. He's played 70-some games this season. He's just been amazing to watch. It seems like you can't stop him from scoring, and people's going to complain about his free throws and this and that. But hey, he's driving to the basket. He's getting where he wants to get. The only thing you can do at that point is foul him and hope he starts missing free throws. And the thing is, he's not missing many. Like I said, he is leading scoring by far. And just everything he's done, and being the leader, and even being one of the top 5 in steals per game, is impressive. And the fact that you are able to pick on him defensively like you can some other point guards. And Oklahoma could be the number 1 team in all of the NBA at this point. They're looking like they have over 60 wins, and right now the only team in the league with over 60 wins. So yeah, my MVP, and should be a surprise to anyone, and really he should get it this year, is SGA. That'll do it for this episode. This was kind of a long one, kind of a fun one though. So thank you guys for joining me, and I hope you keep tuning in. We have a lot more to talk about, and playoff time is almost here.